DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to occur. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a bunch of frameworks, philosophies, mindsets, strategies I'm going to lay out for you every single day here on this daily, yes, you heard me correctly, daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to aim higher. How can you set your target to be a little bit higher than what it's been in the past? How can you go for more than what you've been going for? That's simply what we're talking about here today. Now, before I get into explaining where this topic is coming from, where we're going to take it, let me tell everybody that I send out a daily motivation text message every single morning. And every one of you is welcome to join my texting community and receive my daily motivation text I send out every morning straight from my phone. And the way to get into that community is to just send me a text at my number. Here's my number. 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Send me a text there. And once you have texted me and we confirm you, you'll be in my community. And not only will you get that daily motivation text, but also understand that is me that is seeing your responses. So if you ever text that number and ask a question or share a challenge or say something, understand you are not talking to an assistant of mine. You are not talking to a bot. You are talking to me. So if you have a question or challenge that you want to share, go ahead and post it or text it to me. And I spend time every day going through my text messages and I will reply to you. So text me again. That number is down below in the description of this episode. So this topic, once again, is how to aim higher. Now, we all logically understand that when you aim higher in life, then you are at least aligning yourself with the possibility of achieving higher. Now, just because you aim higher doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make it, doesn't mean you're going to succeed, but you're giving yourself you're opening yourself up to a bigger possibility of winning than if you were aiming lower. Simple enough. And the things that you don't aim for, you don't get, right? You don't take the shot and you can't score any points. Now, things like luck and success, or let's just say success that comes by luck, that kind of success isn't sustainable if it happens by luck, because you don't know when luck is going to decide to abandon you and take its talents elsewhere. So there needs to be some intention behind what you're doing when it comes to aiming higher. And that's what we're talking about here today, to being intentional about the aiming that you're doing in life and why it's going to make sense for you. We want to talk about how this strategically would actually be a good decision for you and a good move for you. So let's get into that so you understand it. Point number one, the topic once again today is how to aim higher. Number one, getting started is harder than to keep going. The law of inertia states that an object that is in motion shall remain in motion or until acted upon by some outside force. And that law works the exact same way for an object that is stationary, not moving at all. In other words, momentum will work for you or it will work against you. If you're moving, it's easy to keep moving. And if you're not doing anything, then it's easy to keep not doing anything. To change the state from doing nothing to doing something, or from doing something to doing nothing, requires more energy than to remain in the state that you're already in. That is what the law of inertia states. So once you're doing the thing, it's just easier to keep doing whatever it is that you have going on. This is why the rich get richer, and this is why the poor get poorer. This is why happy people find more reason to be happy, and losers find more reasons and more ways to lose. Whatever you're already doing is easier to just keep doing that thing. To make change requires energy. It requires effort. And being that human beings are inherently lazy, I told you about this in episode 1772. This is one of those episodes I'm going to refer to all the time, the 3 truths about human beings that you must understand. And actually, that was not episode 1772. I referred to the wrong episode. Let me make sure I'm giving you the right one. 1710 is, no, that's not the right episode either. So let's see. So now let me make sure I got my numbers lined up here when I'm referring to these episodes. Episode 1717 is the number of that episode, not 1772, but you could go listen to that one as well. Episode 1717, the 3 most dangerous truths about people. One is that people are lazy. We like to conserve energy. That's actually a scientific thing about human beings. We want to conserve energy. So whatever whatever way we can get something done by using as little energy as possible, we will do it. But I don't mean that way. When I say that people are lazy, what I mean when I say people are lazy is that people just don't want to do the work. So if you give people an opportunity to not do work and they can get away with it, then for the most part, they won't do it. Now, there are people who are exceptions, and there are times when all of us can be exceptions. Now, in my book, The Third Day, I explained to you that what separates the pros from the amateurs is that you are the exception every single day. That's what the third day is about, is that you don't have to do the work. You don't have to do extra work, but you choose to on a consistent basis, and that's what makes you a pro. And that's why there are so few pros out there, because you have to go against your own nature as a human in order to show up and do the work every day, because nobody feels like doing the work every single day. So you have to be an exceptional type of person. You have to be a really different type of individual to exert what I talk about in my book, The Third Day. But that's why I wrote the book, so you understand it and you can become this exceptional type of person. Because when you're an exceptional person and you do exceptional things, you get exceptional rewards and exceptional results. So if that's what you're looking for, then I would suggest you go to thirddaybook.com, which is where you can get a free copy of this book. All you're going to do is help me out by covering the shipping. I've already paid for a bunch of copies of this book. So I already paid for your copy of the book. You're just going to pay for the shipping, and I will ship it to you wherever you live in the world. I guarantee a 10x return on investment, promise you. Anyway, what we're saying here in point number one is it's easier to keep doing something that you're already doing. And understand, since you already know this, here's the thing you got to get. It takes the same energy to ask for and to receive $1 that it takes to ask for and receive $1,000. And I'm going to use money as an example here, even though we could use anything. We can use friends, we can use associates, we can use targets that you set for yourself, we can use goals that you are looking to achieve. Anything you want, we can use here, but I'm going to use money for a specific reason. Because money is a topic, especially in the Western world. And I know that the majority of my audience are people who are from the Western culture. And I don't mean the West Coast of the United States. I just mean Western society. In our culture, we put so much emphasis on money to the point that many of us either grow up with or still have to this very day some very unique, let's just say, and peculiar relationships to money. And that's why I'm using this one as an example here, is because a lot of times our emotional connections to money cause us to make decisions or not make decisions around money that actually is sending us backwards and harming us, or keeping us in the same place when we could easily move up to a higher level. There are many people out there in life who are asking for $1, metaphorically speaking, when they could just as easily, with the exact same energy that they're using to ask for the $1, they could ask for $1,000, and their chances of getting the 1,000 is equal to their chances of getting the 1. And even if the chances of getting the 1 are a little bit more, and when you actually do the math, I mean, how many times do you have to get $1 to equal getting $1,000 just once? So if you don't believe it, if you don't believe what I just said, I want you to try selling a product for $1. And then you'll find out for yourself that it's not as easy as it looks. It seems pretty easy. I'm gonna sell a product for $1. Everybody's gonna buy it. Listen, I have a course called Bulletproof Mindset. It's my most popular course. If I leveraged that course to tell people to go join Work on Your Game University, which is where I have all of my courses, 37 plus courses there. That's my Bulletproof Mindset, People Skills, 30 Days of Discipline, ASAP Confidence, Content Machine course, Sell Yourself course, Toughen Up course. All of those courses are in Work on Your Game University for one price, a one-time payment. If I lowered that price to $1, I guarantee you, the whole world is not going to go buy that course. However many people are listening to this show right now, let's just say that there are 5,000 people listening to this episode right now. Would I sell 5,000? Is 5,000 new members into Work on Your Game University if I lower their price to $1? Would I make $5,000 that day? And I say, okay, it's just going to be a one-day sale. All right, just this one day you can get in for $1. But after that, I'm raising the price back up to what it is. How many copies do you think I would sell? Let's say I opened it up to only 5,000 people. I have 5,000 available. When those 5,000 are sold, then nobody else can get in. And I sold it for $5,000. What do you think would happen? Do you think I would sell 5,000 of them for $1? The answer is no, I would not. And understand, I've never done something exactly like that, but I've done versions of that, where I took something that was a certain price, lowered it down to a ridiculously low price, and people still didn't go get it. Why is this? Well, we're not going to go into a deep discussion on it because that's not exactly what the topic is here today. But the reason is, overall, is that I could just as easily sell it for $1,000 as I could sell something for $1, and I'm going to get pretty much the same results. I'll probably get much better results selling for $1,000 because, again, how many times do I need to be right to sell something for $1,000? How many handshakes and closed sales do I need to make more money with a $1,000 sale than a $1 sale? Well, just do the math. I would have to get a $1 sale 1,000 times. I only got to get $1,000 sale and I'm good. It's not as easy as it sounds. If any of you have ever tried it, again, if you think aiming lower makes it easier for you to be successful, this is my point here. Just using money as an example to illustrate the point. If you think aiming lower will make it easier for you to be successful, try aiming even lower than you're already aiming and see if it's easier, because you're going to find out that it's not. So you can try if you want, or you can just take my word for it. And this is the reason why with money, it's not so easy to even sell something for $1, because to take someone from paying zero to making a buying decision and then pulling out their wallet to pay is a huge jump. To go from $0 to $1 is a bigger jump than to go from $1 to $1,000. Let me say that one more time. The jump from $0 to $1 is bigger than the jump from $1 to $1,000. Because a person who is paying nothing, now they have to pay anything, even if it's just $1. That is a huge psychological move for a human being. And again, some of you are thinking of this, if you never thought of this before, you're like, that's ridiculous. Why would it be such a big jump if somebody paid $1? Everybody has it. Yes, they do have it, but it's a psychological thing, as I just said. It's not a logical thing, it's a psychological thing. And someone the reason why the jump from $1 to $1,000 is not as significant is because the person who's already paying $1, or they're already used to paying $1, or they have already agreed, or they're willing to pay $1, or for them to go up to $1,000, yes, they're going to need more money, but the biggest jump is not the amount of money that somebody has. The biggest jump is the decision that they made that they're going to spend money. It doesn't matter how much, because any of us could come up with any amount of money if we saw a big enough need, an urgent enough need to get it. Even if we, quote unquote, don't have it, we can come up with it if we needed it. True or not? Any of you who's a salesperson, you know this to be true, at least if you're a good one. So the point of all of this is, as I'm explaining here, we're still on point number one. If you are already in progress on doing something, just raise your perspective, because it's very easy for you to raise your perspective. You're already in momentum of moving in this direction. So if you're asking for $1, start asking for $1,000. I mean, you're already moving in the direction you need to anyway. The challenge for us often in life is that we are free to aim for anything that we choose, and then we aim low. This is the biggest challenge that many of us have in life. It's not that we don't know what we're doing. It's not that we're doing the wrong thing. It's not that we lack game, or we don't have the right skills, or don't know the right people, or there's some information that is being hidden from us. None of those is really our biggest challenge. Our biggest challenge is that we are free to aim as high or as low as we choose. And many of us, given free reign, we choose to aim lower than we could be aiming. But many times it's because we're not even thinking about it. We don't even consider the fact that we could aim at something higher. Or maybe we think we're not capable of, or we're not worthy or qualified to aim at a higher level. I'm here to tell you that you are. All right, that's the first one. I want to just put that in your mind. Let's move on to point number two. Today's topic, again, is how to aim higher. Number two, remember where branding begins. Any of you who is building a brand, and as a matter of fact, all of us have a brand. Even if you're not on the internet and selling products, you still have a brand. Your brand is just your reputation. It's how people feel about you, what people say about you when you're not around. That is your brand. And in episode 779, I told you that branding begins with what you say about you. Branding is not what Google says about you, or what other people say, or what your customers think. That's part of it. But the main thing that controls your brand message and the reputation your brand has with other people in their minds is what you say about yourself and your brand. How is this? Because the only way other people can interpret you and look at you and make a judgment about you is by looking at what you present. What do you give them to work with? What do you give them to go off of? Whatever it is you choose to present. So when you change what you're saying about yourself, then other people have no choice but to go off that, because where else are they getting information? They got to get it from you. It has to come from something that you put out there. So aiming higher in life is a mindset and a decision. It is not a skill, and it's not a question of resources. That is a point worth repeating. Aiming higher in life is a mindset and a decision. It is not a skill, nor is it a question of available resources. When you decide that you are worth more than what you have been asking for or accepting, you can make change that fast. When you lose the self-imposed limitations that you have chosen to put on yourself, and yes, they were a choice, even if you didn't know you were making a choice, you did, your worthiness and your potential can go up just that fast. What you will realize is that you have been playing too small all along. And this is what happens to all of us in life, is that we get to a point where we raise our level, where we raise our aims, and we start actually hitting those targets. And then we say to ourselves, damn, why didn't I do this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 weeks ago? Simply because it never occurred to us. We weren't thinking about it. And we have been conditioned by our associates, law of association. We have been conditioned by the people around us to aim at a certain level because that's what everyone around us was aiming at. And you might think that you're above that kind of influence, and I'm going to let you know that you are not. In episode 1880, I explained to you the law of association. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. You probably heard that before, but I went deeper into explaining why the law of association is the law of association and how you need to be leveraging it, or it is going to be leveraging you, maybe to your detriment. We often find out, again, only when it's too late, that we've been aiming way too low for much of our lives, but there's no better time to change that than the present. And sometimes we find this out because we may get to a moment in our lives, maybe an emergency or in a crisis, where we are forced to employ new strategies and new approaches because circumstance has forced us to do something different than what we have been doing. We're used to doing things one way, but some circumstance blocks us from doing things the same old way as in the past. We have to change our aims. We have to change our approach. And then this new way is actually better than the old way. And we're like, damn, I never would have changed had this circumstance not forced me to change. And sometimes that's how we fall into it. But however you get there, you get there. When I talked about Jay-Z in Masterclass episode number 281, Virtual Mentors Volume 2. And when Jay-Z was trying to get into the rap industry in the early to mid 90s, nobody was interested in signing him to a contract. People agreed that he had some skill, but there were a lot of rappers like Jay-Z. What was so great about Jay-Z? Since nobody wanted to sign him and a couple of business partners decided to start their own company. They signed Jay-Z to their company, and then they put his music out that way, and then Jay-Z eventually blew up and became Jay-Z. The point that I'm making with that is, had someone signed Jay-Z to a record deal, let's say the first couple of meetings he was able to get, somebody had just signed him to a contract, Jay-Z may never have become the Jay-Z that we know, simply because circumstance would never have forced upon him to do something different. They never would have foisted this circumstance upon him where he had to figure out, all right, how am I going to get into the rap industry? If no one will sign me to a contract, what other options do I have? And the other option was him and his business partner said, well, let's just do it ourselves. Let's put ourselves on. And that changed everything. Kevin Garnett, NBA Hall of Fame basketball player, just got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021, as a matter of fact. He was in Chicago. He's from South Carolina, but he was in Chicago his senior year of high school, and Kevin Garnett was the #1 ranked player in the nation. And he had his choice of what college he wanted to go to. He could have went to any college in the country. But the challenge for Kevin Garnett at the time, a lot of people don't know this, is that Kevin Garnett was continually failing to qualify to be eligible to play college basketball as a freshman. He wasn't getting a high enough score on the ACT, which is one of the standardized tests, at least at that time. I have no idea if they still do the ACT now, but Kevin Garnett was failing to hit the right score on the ACT that would have made him a qualifier, as they say, to play during his freshman year in college. So in other words, he would have went to school, but he would not be eligible to play sports, and then he could play after his freshman year if he had qualified academically. Now, Kevin Garnett didn't want to deal with that because scouts had told him, and he knew, and people around him knew, that this guy was probably going to be what they call a one-and-done prospect. Now, this is in the mid-'90s, way before this was a mainstream thing. But Kevin Garnett was that damn good. So after he did a couple of workouts for NBA teams, and this is the thing, Kevin Garnett only started looking at possibly jumping from high school to the NBA because he was not qualifying academically. It wasn't because he was just thinking, let me go to the NBA. It was after he was not hitting the numbers academically, he started looking. And also he had played some pickup basketball with some guys who were pros, and some pros told him, like, yo, you can play in the NBA right now. And so that was a little bit of a seed, and then the unqualifying made that seed start to grow. So then Kevin Garnett declared for the NBA draft. Then he did some workouts, and he, according to legend, he killed it in the workouts, so much so that teams were clamoring and really starting to posture and move up and play poker about who they were going to draft, because a lot of teams were interested in drafting this kid, Kevin Garnett, from high school. Now, he was the first kid to come out of high school in that era. No one had done it. It had been a couple decades since anyone had done it before him. It may be 15 years since someone had done it before him. So Kevin Garnett was the first of this high school to NBA thing. He did it in 95. Then the next year, you got a guy named Kobe. You also had Jermaine O'Neal. Then the years later, then you got other guys, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, et cetera, et cetera. But the whole point is, Kevin Garnett was forced to aim higher than NCAA D1 and instead aim for NBA simply because the circumstance put in his lap was that he wouldn't be able to do things the way that he originally planned. And the ironic end to the whole thing is, after Kevin Garnett was all in on the draft, I believe it might have been the day after he got drafted, or maybe the day after he declared for the draft and he couldn't go back. Like he had signed with an agent or something he had done that said he basically had cut off, he had burned the bridge, he could not go back and still take the option of college. It's like the day after Kevin Garnett found out that he had finally hit the right score on the ACT and he qualified to play college basketball. But at that point, he was already all in on the NBA draft, and the rest is history. He never played in college. He went straight to the NBA, and it turns out that was a pretty good decision. He did pretty well from what I heard. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to aim higher. Remember the law of association, which I just mentioned a moment ago. Also talked about again in episode 1880. Get around people who are already playing the game at a higher level than you and allow their mentality to rub off on you. This is what I meant when I said the law of association. Many of us aim lower than we could aim in life, much lower than we could, simply because we're hanging around a bunch of people, our peer group, who being around them, it feels normal where we're aiming. Maybe you feel like the star around those people, but you're hanging around a bunch of people who ain't really that good, so you ain't got to be that good to be better than them. This is the law of association. One quick and simple, but not always easy way to raise your aims in life is just to associate with people who are already aiming at a level that you had never even thought about. People who are playing the game just at a level that you haven't played at yet. People who've already seen where you're trying to get to. They did that last year, and you're trying to get there. You want to be around those people because to them, what you're trying to do is pretty easy. And that energy matters. That association matters a lot because that's their default mindset. And the law of association says, not only it says you become the people you are associating with, but let's go deeper into it. What does that mean when it says become? You're going to start thinking like those people. See, the people around you are used to all making 6 figures every single year. You're not there yet. If you hang around them long enough, then making 6 figures every year is going to become a normal thing for you simply because their mindset is going to rub off on you. And whatever is in their mindset that leads them to making what they make, you're going to start thinking the same way and you're going to start getting the same results. Because we know the 3-step framework of achievement is mindset, then strategy, then tactics. So getting around people who have the mindset that you would need to have to be who you need to be is a huge part of making the law of association work in your favor. This is why I told you at the beginning of the year 2021 that people is the quickest and most effective life hack that there is. So if there's one thing that you can focus on for this year, I told you episode 1693, one thing to focus on for the year 2021, and I should run that episode back every year on January 1st. It's the exact same episode, but I won't do that to y'all. Is people. Getting the right people around you. You can get more done and move yourself further ahead faster through other people and your association with them than you ever can with your own, no matter how much hard work that you do on your own. And this is the guy who says work on your game telling you that. And understand that people is the quickest and most effective life hack, not only for success, but also for failure. So if you're hanging around a bunch of loser, bum-ass people who are doing nothing, that is the quickest way for you to become a loser, bum-ass person who's doing nothing. You will get there faster through hanging with them than you will by yourself. And you can get to success faster through hanging with successful people than you will by yourself. In sports, for example, one of the best ways to learn how to play a game or to play a game better is to play with players who are better than you every single day. Why? Because they're playing the game at a speed. They have instincts, they have skills, they have abilities that you haven't quite gotten to that level yet, but the only way you're going to survive in their environment is for you to catch up. They're not going to slow down for you to catch up. You got to speed up to catch up to the point that what you used to call speeding up 2 months ago now is just your normal way of doing things simply because you got around a different set of associations, so now it's normal for you. See, if you were making 50 grand a year and then you start hanging around people who are used to making 250 grand a year, you hang around them for long enough, then you're going to be making 250 grand a year. And it felt like a crazy idea for you to think you can make 250 a year when you first met them and you were making 50. But if you hang around them for a few years, now you're making 250 every year. It's just a normal thing. Now you couldn't go back to the 50 simply because you have your horizons have expanded. Your comfort zone has expanded. What you're used to is different now. And understanding human beings, we are the most adaptable creatures in the world mentally. We can adapt to anything. So again, this works both on a positive side and a negative side. So you need to be very careful about your associations. Let's recap today's class, which is how to aim higher. When you aim higher, you achieve higher. And what you don't aim for, you don't get. All right, so you shouldn't expect to just keep getting lucky when it comes to success. You want to actually be strategic about it and have some intention. Today, I'm telling you how to do that. Number one, getting started is harder than to keep going. This is just the law of inertia. It's easier to get someone to do more of something that they're already doing than to start doing something, even a little bit of something, if they're doing nothing. So this is why it's much easier to raise your aims and raise your goals when you already have aims and goals than it is to start having aims and goals if you don't have them right now. So if you're already in progress on something, and I'm assuming anyone who is sitting and listening to someone talk for damn near 30 minutes about the law of association and setting goals and aiming higher, I'm assuming you already have some goals in your life. If you haven't written them down, make sure you write them down. Get the mental workbook. That'll help you write these down. That's at workonyourgame.com/books. Well, since you already have goals, all you have to do is raise those goals. It's easy. You're already in momentum. Now just ask for more than what you've been asking for from the universe and from yourself. Point number two, remember what branding is about. It starts with what you say about yourself. Other people can't say anything about you unless they go off of the perception that they got of you, which comes from the way that you choose to present yourself to the world. So lose your self-imposed limitations that you put on yourself and your worthiness and your potential. What you'll realize is that you've been playing too small all along. And often we only find this out when circumstances force us to try a new strategy because the old way just wasn't working. Like Jay-Z trying to get a record deal, couldn't get one, so he started a company. Kevin Garnett trying to qualify to play in the NCAA, couldn't qualify, so he said, forget it, let's just go to the NBA. And both of those guys, that process worked out. That's not to say it works out for everybody. There are plenty who didn't work out. We don't know their names, but this is often the way that people get there and they find out what they're made of. Point number three, law of association. Get around people who are already playing the game on a higher level and let their mentality rub off on you. Associate with people who are thinking differently from you and thinking at a higher level than you. You will start thinking like they think, and that is the quickest way to move yourself ahead in life. Remember, it's mindset first, strategy second, tactics third. This is why people is the quickest and most effective life hack there is in the world for human beings, and it works for both succeeding and for failing. In sports, this is the best way to get better at playing the sport is hanging around people who are playing the game at a higher level than you, because you will have no choice but to catch up. Send me a text if you want to get my daily motivation text message. I send that out every single day to everyone who's in my texting community. My number is 305-384-6894. And anyone who's looking for someone who can help hold you accountable. You're looking for someone who can make sure that you are setting your aims where you could actually go, making sure that you are raising your levels, and you want to build your associations so you can get around the right types of people and make connections with the types of people that can help you advance in life further and faster. Then you may be the type of person that I want to work with in my third day mastermind. I'm highly selective about who I work with there because I'm giving my one-on-one time. It's the only place and only way that I do it. If you're interested in that and hopping on a Zoom call with me so I can find out who you are, where you're at, where you want to go to workonyourgameuniversity.com/call. Link is down below in the description. Fill out a quick form. We'll hop on a Zoom call. We'll schedule it. Hop on a Zoom call. Talk about what we need to talk about. Work on your game. Dre all day.